Believe it or not, you can't just relax your way out of a physiological stress response. It doesn't work that way. And what you eat directly impacts the chemical signals your brain sends to your adrenal glands every single day. But here's the thing, if you don't address the chemistry, you might never feel like your old self again. You'll just stay stuck, exhausted, irritable, overweight, and foggy. So how do you finally get out of survival mode? Keep watching, because in this video, I'm showing you 5 specific foods that are scientifically proven to lower your cortisol levels and calm your nervous system. I know exactly how it feels to have runaway cortisol, and I've helped hundreds of people get to the root cause of chronically elevated levels. But before we dive into the functional foods that will help you break the stress cycle, it's important to understand the chaos that high cortisol is creating in your body. Here is how we're going to break it all down so you can finally get some relief. Let's start with a reality check. How do you actually know if you have high cortisol? Believe it or not, your stress response system is one of the most powerful and influential systems in your entire body. It impacts pretty much everything you've got, and not always in a friendly or helpful way. You might be dealing with things that feel like separate, random issues, but they're often all connected to this one hormone. I'm talking about hot flashes and night sweats that ruin your sleep. I'm talking about heart palpitations, or even bouts of dizziness and vertigo that make you feel like the world is spinning. Maybe for you, the symptoms are primarily in your gut. You're dealing with chronic constipation, or perhaps the opposite, diarrhea, cramping, and that constant uncomfortable bloating after you eat. You might notice poor circulation in your hands and feet, always feeling cold even when it's warm out. But the biggest telltale sign is the sleep. It's that tired but wired feeling. You're exhausted all day, but then you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning with your mind racing and you can't get back to sleep. Then there's the weight gain, specifically in the belly area, that doesn't seem to respond to exercise, and a feeling that your memory and focus just aren't what they used to be. If that sounds like your life, you aren't just stressed. You are likely stuck in survival mode. So what exactly is cortisol, and what is it doing to create such a mess? Cortisol is a hormone produced by what we call the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands. It's your body's command center for responding to stressors. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Dr. Kate, if it's a stress hormone, then high levels are caused by too much stress. And you'd be right. But here's the critical part that most people miss. Your body treats all stress the same. It doesn't distinguish between a deadline at work and a chronic gut infection. We always think about the mental and emotional stressors, the teenagers, the bills, the traffic. But I've found that the physical stressors, the ones that don't involve our thoughts or feelings, are the ones that really keep us stuck. I'm talking about your neurology, your immune system, and your gut health. These physical stressors aren't always given their due, but they're constantly signaling your brain that you're under threat. Your body interprets this constant stress as a threat to your actual survival. This is why your stress response also involves adrenaline. It's trying to keep you safe and alive. It kicks you into fight, flight, or freeze mode. That's a great system if you're facing a temporary emergency. The problem is that most of us live a huge percentage of our lives in this on state. We never come back to baseline. When you stay in this chronic stress state, your body keeps cranking out cortisol. Over time, that becomes incredibly inflammatory and degenerative. It suppresses your immune system, making it harder for your body to heal. It raises your blood glucose, which can lead to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. It can even cause depression that's completely independent of your serotonin levels. It literally shifts your brain chemistry and your sleep cycle until you're left in a state of total exhaustion. Before we get into the solutions, we have to talk about how to know for sure if this is what's happening. If you suspect your cortisol is high, you might go to your doctor for a blood test. But here's the problem. Unless your levels are so extreme that they indicate a rare disease like Addison's or Cushing's, a random blood draw isn't very helpful. Cortisol levels vary greatly throughout a normal sleep-wake cycle. It should be high in the morning to help you wake up and low at night so you can sleep. A single blood draw is just a snapshot in time. It doesn't show us the cortisol curve of your day. Some people use saliva testing, which helps visualize that curve. But even then, free cortisol can be deceiving. I've seen patients with normal free cortisol levels whose total cortisol production is actually sky high, or the reverse. To get the full picture, I suggest a comprehensive at-home test called the Dutch adrenal. It measures your urine for cortisol metabolites. This is the only way to see both your free cortisol and your overall production levels. It also measures DHEA, which is an adrenal hormone that helps produce your reproductive hormones. Understanding this balance is the difference between guessing and actually having a plan. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see how to access this testing for yourself. Now let's talk about how to fuel your body to break the stress cycle. We aren't just picking random healthy foods. To lower cortisol, we're looking for 4 specific nutritional pillars that act like a mute button for your overactive stress response. First, we need foods high in healthy fatty acids, especially omega-3s. If you want to balance your hormones, fat is your friend. Healthy fats keep you feeling full, and more importantly, they level out your blood sugar. Stable blood sugar is the secret to avoiding those massive cortisol spikes and crashes. Second is magnesium. Magnesium is well established in the research to calm the fight or flight response. It's also crucial for supporting healthy sleep, which is when your HPA axis finally gets a chance to reset. Third are polyphenols. These are compounds that lower oxidative stress and systemic inflammation. They also lower your fasting glucose. Certain polyphenols, specifically flavonoids, can even modulate neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which helps reduce that feeling of anxiety and depression that often comes with high cortisol. Finally, we need fiber. When you eat enough dietary fiber, the bacteria in your gut ferment it into something called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. These provide fuel for your intestinal cells and play a massive role in the gut-brain connection. A randomized controlled trial in 2020 showed that people given just 1 dose of these short-chain fatty acids had a significantly lower cortisol spike when they were exposed to a stress trigger. Your gut health literally determines how well you handle stress. Let me introduce my top 5 deep dive powerhouse cortisol-lowering foods. Number 1 on the list is green tea. This is a powerhouse because it contains 3 specific things. First, it's loaded with polyphenols. Second, it contains L-theanine. About 20 minutes after you drink it, L-theanine starts naturally lowering your cortisol. Third, it contains EGCG, which inhibits the enzyme that converts inactive cortisone into active, stressful cortisol. In a recent clinical trial, women with moderate stress drank 1.5 grams of green tea powder mixed with water every day. After 12 weeks, they saw a significant reduction in stress, blood glucose, and cortisol levels, and an increase in melatonin. They were less stressed and sleeping better just from adding green tea to their routine. Next is fatty fish. Think salmon, sardines, and mackerel. These are the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids. A double-blind study on nurses with clinical burnout found that omega-3s significantly reduced their symptoms and lowered their morning cortisol levels. Another study on teens with depression showed that morning cortisol decreased after 12 weeks of omega-3 supplementation. These fats are essentially brain food that tells your adrenals to take a breath. Now, these foods are a powerful long-term strategy, but I know some of you are in the thick of it right now and need relief ASAP. So if you're looking for fast-acting strategies to calm your nervous system, I have another video on 3 fast strategies for lowering cortisol that you should check out right after this one. Number 3 is nuts, specifically almonds and pistachios. Almonds are naturally nutritionally balanced for stress. They are rich in monounsaturated fats that stabilize blood glucose and high in magnesium, about 270 milligrams per 100 grams. They also contain vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that protects your neurological system from the damage that high cortisol causes. Pistachios are just as powerful. They are a significant source of vitamin B6, which your brain requires to synthesize GABA. GABA is the neurotransmitter that has a calming effect on your brain. Pistachios also contain anthocyanins and carotenoids that have been proven to reduce the oxidative stress linked to chronic anxiety. Number 4 is avocado. For my plant-based folks, this is your holy grail. It's packed with healthy fats, fiber, and magnesium. Research shows that avocado oil actually protects your cells against the inflammation that happens secondary to high cortisol. It's a dense, nutrient-rich way to keep your blood sugar from spiking and your cortisol from climbing. And it means you get to eat lots of guacamole, which is a win-win. And finally, number 5, dark chocolate. But there's a catch. It needs to be 70% to 85% dark chocolate. 1 ounce provides about 65 milligrams of magnesium. More importantly, it's high in polyphenols that boost endorphins, your natural feel-good chemicals. In a study where participants ate about an ounce of high polyphenol dark chocolate daily for 4 weeks, their total daily cortisol, morning cortisol, and their cortisol to cortisone ratio were all significantly reduced. It's one of the most delicious ways to change your hormonal chemistry. Using food as medicine is one of the most effective ways to tell your body that it is safe and it can finally come out of survival mode. But if you've been feeling exhausted and irritable for months or even years, you deserve to know exactly what's happening under the hood. If you want to stop guessing and start knowing, I highly recommend the Dutch adrenal test. It is the most comprehensive way to see your total cortisol production and get a clear picture of your adrenal health. I've put a link in the description with more information on how you can order your own kit, and I'll even help you interpret the results so we can create a plan that's specific to you. We help people all over the world access this testing and finally get their lives back. Let's get you out of survival mode and back to feeling like yourself again. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.